Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to the GSL English Podcast. My name is Gideon, and this is a podcast for all learners of English to practice and improve in a relaxed and natural way. And in this episode, I want to talk about something which I think all of us have experienced to one degree or another. I know that I have certainly experienced it in my life, and that is anxiety. So, in this episode, I really wanted to dive in to what anxiety actually is. And then we're going to kind of look into the realms of social anxiety. What is social anxiety? But particularly when trying to use the English language. So we're going to kind of go through it in those three stages. We're firstly going to look into what anxiety itself is. Then we're going to look at social anxiety specifically. And then we're going to look at what that means when it comes to learning English. Because have you ever had those moments in social situations? God, that's really difficult to say. Social situations. Have you ever experienced it where you just feel overwhelmed? You get that kind of tight feeling in your chest. And you may even get that in your native language in certain situations, but it seems to be magnified when it comes to social situations in our second language, in our third language. And of course, because of the podcast, we're particularly going to be focusing on English. And it might mean that you've got the skills, you've got the vocabulary, you've got the fluency, but anxiety stops you from interacting, from reaching your social potential. And it is so frustrating. So, we're going to look at certain ways that we can overcome social anxiety. This is true, as I said, in our native language, in day to day situations, but also specifically when it comes to situations where we have to use the English language in a social way, in a relaxed way. How can we battle against, how can we combat those feelings of anxiety? So I just want to start off with a little disclaimer here. I'm by no means an expert. I'm by no means a medical professional at all. What I've done is just put together, I've collated as much information as I can from many different sources and just picked the points that I think are fantastic, the points that I think give us the best explanation and reasoning as to why we might feel a certain way, and also some of the best tips that I found helpful and I think could potentially help you. So I just want to say that this is by no means, advice, medical advice or whatever. I'm not an expert, but I know it's something that we all have to battle with. We all have to deal with to certain degrees. So, yeah, I thought, you know what, let's talk about it on today's podcast. So I do hope you enjoy this one. As always, I do encourage you just to sit back, relax with me, grab a cup of tea, grab a cup of coffee if you can. If you are new here, just a really quick introduction, I promise. My name is Gideon. I'm an English teacher from just outside of London. And every week on Sunday morning at 10 o'clock UK time, I put out a podcast with the goal of you just being able to practice and improve your real and authentic English. So although I have material that we're going to go through, as you're going to see today, I share it on the screen, I talk about it in a natural way. So the way that I express the thoughts and opinions isn't scripted, just so you can hear British English in its most authentic form. And if you're a returning viewer or listener on Spotify or YouTube, thank you so much for coming back. And thank you for those loyal ones that do tune in every week. I appreciate your support. So once you're ready, once you've got comfortable, or you're sitting on the underground, or you're on the bus, or you're listening at the gym, or you're on your way to work, I really do hope you enjoy this one. Oh, and just as a little special thank you to the members on YouTube. Now, this is none of you have to sign up to that membership on YouTube, but for those of you that have, I really appreciate it. it helps me to keep going with this channel. So thank you so much if you are a member on YouTube. So, anxiety and social anxiety. Have you felt it? So let's just dive straight in. What is anxiety? So I'm going to read the definition in its entirety, and then we'll just break down some of the vocabulary, some of the expressions that are used, and see what we can take from it. So at its core, anxiety is your body's threat detection system. It's closely tied to the fight, flight, or freeze response. When your brain thinks something might be wrong, it releases stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. This can lead to physical symptoms: racing heart, tight chest, sweating, shaky hands, nausea, dizziness. Mental symptoms: constant worrying, overthinking, difficulty concentrating. Emotional symptoms: irritability, dread, feeling on edge. Behavioral changes: avoiding situations, procrastinating, seeking reassurance. A bit of anxiety is normal and even useful. It can help you prepare for an exam or stay alert in risky situations. It becomes a problem when it's frequent, intense, or out of proportion, especially when it interferes with daily life. So that's a superb definition of what anxiety is. So let's break it down a little bit. So it says at its core, at its center, it's your body's threat detection system. So anxiety is your body detecting a threat or something that could be dangerous to us. And it's tied into that fight, flight, or freeze response. So when our body detects a threat, it's said that we respond in one of three ways. We fight the threat, we fly away, so we run away, or we freeze. They're the three responses. And when our brain thinks that something is wrong, it releases hormones. So this can lead to certain symptoms. So you've got those physical symptoms: racing heart, meaning your heart's beating really fast; a tight chest, when it just feels like it's quite difficult to breathe; sweating, shaky hands; nausea, meaning that you're feeling sick; or dizziness, meaning that your head just feels a little bit light and you feel wobbly on your feet. Mental symptoms: constant worrying, overthinking, overthinking certain situations, and also difficulty concentrating. Emotional symptoms: irritability, meaning that you're getting annoyed quicker than usual; dread, feeling that something's going to happen; or just on edge. Now, if you're on edge, you're just kind of waiting for the next bad thing to happen, that feeling that you're on edge. Or you might procrastinate, meaning that you put things off because you don't want to face them. Or you seek reassurance, asking others, am I okay? Did I do okay? Have you experienced any of those symptoms? I think we all have, haven't we? But what I love at this point is that a bit of anxiety is normal. It's okay. If we feel a little bit of anxiety, that's not a problem. It's even useful. So we're not at the outset here saying that anxiety is bad. If you feel a certain level of anxiety, something's wrong. Not at all. It can help you prepare. It can put your mind in the right place, or even help you face situations that might be a little bit risky. But when it comes a problem is when it's all the time, when it's intense, when it's out of proportion, meaning that it isn't, the anxiety that we're feeling isn't fitting to the situation that we're in. And it's a problem when it's interfering with our daily life. Some people wake up with anxiety. Some people have anxiety all day. Some people have it to an absolutely extreme levels, and it affects daily life. But let's think about this idea of social anxiety. So it says here social anxiety disorder or social phobia. It says it's a disorder, but it might just be something that we think or we feel. It's a specific type of anxiety that centers on fear of being judged, embarrassed, or negatively evaluated by others. So being judged, what's everyone thinking of me? Embarrassing ourselves in social situations, or being negatively evaluated by others. So it's not just shyness, it's a deeper, often overwhelming fear that can feel very real and hard to control. So here are some common thoughts that might go through our heads when we're experiencing social anxiety. You might think, everyone's watching me. Have you had that? When in reality, they're not, but you feel like all eyes are on you when you walk into a room. You know, oh, you're the only non-native English speaker. All eyes are on me. What if I make a mistake? You might think, I'm not going to speak because I'm just going to say something stupid. Or that social anxiety can often make us think that people think we're awkward or we're weird. Or social anxiety puts that threat in your head that I'm going to embarrass myself and I won't recover. They're dangerous thoughts, aren't they? And there's often some common situations that trigger it. Speaking in meetings or class, at work, meeting new people. That can be in a variety of different settings, can't it? Making phone calls. And apparently eating or drinking in front of others can make you have social anxiety, or being the center of attention. So what are the symptoms that we might face in those settings? Blushing, sweating, trembling, dry mouth, fast heartbeat. If we're blushing, our cheeks go a bit red, particularly when we're embarrassed. Sweating, meaning that we're perspiring. Trembling, we might get the shakes of nerves. Dry mouth, feeling that we just need a bit of water. Fast heartbeats. Or we might have some mental symptoms. Intense self-consciousness. What do I do with my hands? Am I walking weird? Am I standing weird? Am I holding my glass weird? Oh, it's so frustrating. Replaying conversations afterwards. What did I say? What shouldn't I have said? Do they think I'm weird? Blah, blah, blah. And this might lead us to behavioural symptoms. We might just avoid social events altogether. We might stay quiet, or we might leave early or as soon as we can. Really frustrating. So how do they affect us? How does anxiety and social anxiety really feel from the inside? Perhaps you can relate to some of these feelings. Okay, I know I certainly can. People often describe it as a constant background hum of worry. That's talking about general anxiety. That constant background, which is basically saying you need to worry about something. There's so much to worry about. It's constantly in the background. That's general anxiety. Whereas social anxiety is often a sudden spike in panic in social situations. It can feel like your brain is just running the worst case scenarios on loop. Your body starts reacting physically and mentally as if you're in danger, even when you're safe. And it's sometimes social anxiety can be like you're watching yourself from the outside, negatively analysing everything you do. It's the most frustrating thing, and I'm sure we've all experienced it to certain degrees. What's the key differences though? Well, general anxiety is more broad and can attach to many things: health, work, future, relationships. Whereas social anxiety is specifically about social situations and really, if we're being completely honest, how others perceive you. So why does it happen? Well, there's no single cause. There's no particular reason as to why we feel anxiety. There's no one reason as to why we feel socially anxious, and it appears that others don't. But it can be a mix of a variety of different things. And the first thing that I kept coming across was biology. Some people have a more sensitive nervous system. It's part of our makeup. Psychology, our thinking patterns like perfectionism, always expecting perfection from ourselves, or fear of judgment, that can play into it. Experience, perhaps we've embarrassed ourselves in the past. Bullied, maybe that's something we've had to deal with. Maybe at school, at work, or even as an adult, we've been bullied, or we've been overly criticized. And that's created this idea of first kind of response is to worry, is to feel anxious. And the environment that we're in now, or even that we grew up in, an environment of stress, pressure, a lack of support. There's loads of different reasons as to why it happens, but social anxiety can be debilitating. It really can. And sometimes you think, well, I put on this mask that I'm okay, that I'm confident, but I wish I didn't have that underlying feeling of anxiety. So there's one important reality. Anxiety often overestimates danger and underestimates your ability to cope. Just read that again. Anxiety often overestimates danger, so thinks things are going to be a lot worse than they are, but it underestimates your ability. So anxiety says the situation is going to be worse than it is, and you're not going to be able to handle it as good as you actually can. Social anxiety especially tends to convince you that others are paying more attention than they actually are. I don't know, I'll give you an example of this that I was thinking about. I would like to say that as I've got older, I'm not as socially anxious as I used to be. But there's certain situations I was really trying to evaluate this honestly so I could be as transparent with you on the topic as possible as to the way that I feel. And do you know situations where I get particularly socially anxious? One of them is on a plane, okay, on an airplane. Say I'm at the front of the plane and I've got to walk to the back to the toilet. That walk down, I feel like everybody's looking at me. You know, am I walking in a weird way? Am I bumping into people? Have I got a stain down my shirt? What do I do with my hands? I was thinking about it, and that always, to a certain degree, makes me socially anxious. It's ridiculous. Just walking down the plane, nobody's looking at me. They're eating their food, they're watching their films. No one could care less. For some reason, my brain goes, everybody's looking at you, everybody's judging you. But in situations where I'm intentionally the focus of attention, maybe it's a meeting or giving a presentation, I feel calm because I know that eyes are actually on me and that's what's intended to happen. That's okay. But when I'm not too sure, that's when I feel socially anxious. And perhaps you can think of scenarios where you particularly feel socially anxious. It's very different, isn't it, for all of us? But the one commonality is that it's just really frustrating. With anxiety, I wish, you know, sometimes, some days you just wish you could just wake up and just click a button and turn anxiety off. It's not the way it works, is it? So what we're going to go through now, I think there's 11 ways that we can combat or beat social anxiety. So what we're going to do is we're going to take them point by point, we're going to look at them, and then we're going to see how each point can apply to your English. Because at first I was just looking at this from purely an English point of view. But then I thought, no, let's look at this one from just a standard life point of view, you know, just where we are in life. And then we'll apply it to English. So here's the first point. I love this point. Stop avoiding everything. If we avoid something, we stay away from it. We try to keep as far from it as possible. Avoidance gives short-term relief, but keeps the fear alive. Avoidance gives short-term relief, but keeps the fear alive. Short-term relief means that it gives that quick relief. We're out of the situation, but it doesn't last. The fear is still there. For an example, you've been invited to a party or a gathering or a get-together, and you don't want to go. So what do? You avoid the party. You avoid the get-together. You avoid the gathering. So your anxiety drops. In that moment, you think, oh, I don't have to go. You've declined the invitation. But what does that do to your brain? Well, it says, avoiding that party saved me. Avoiding it got me out of that feeling of stress and anxiety. So in essence, next time, the fear is now stronger. Because your brain thinks, well, that worked. So I'm going to do it again. I don't know if that makes any sense. I hope I put that together correctly, that avoiding it makes your brain learn that that is the answer. But a better idea is gradual exposure. For example, if you struggle in social settings, someone says, I've got a big get-together of 100 people, do you want to come? In all honesty, maybe that's not the best option. There is an argument just to throw yourself in the deep end and learn to swim. that might work. But I know for me, I was thinking that probably wouldn't work. That probably wouldn't do me any good. There's a risk of having a bit of a situation. Maybe a better goal is to invite a couple of friends for coffee and then say, well, they can bring a couple of friends. Or if someone says, do you want to come round for dinner? You go around for dinner. It's a calmer situation. Don't avoid, gradually expose, and start tiny. Say hello to a cashier. Ask someone a simple question. Make brief eye contact. Speak once in a small group. But how can we apply this to English? Well, don't wait until your English is perfect. So you just avoid all situations. Almost like you avoid asking for directions. You avoid starting conversations. You avoid eye contact. Because you think, my English isn't perfect. Because every time you avoid that conversation, well, the fear just increases. The fear is still alive, and your brain thinks, well, that's the solution. Say one sentence in English instead of switching languages. Ask for something in English, even very simply. Don't worry about it. Speak a little, even if it feels uncomfortable. But if you're in a social situation and you've got the opportunity to speak English, I'm not saying that you have to be the life of the party and the center of attention, but just say something. Because then your brain realizes, well, nothing bad actually happened. Okay, maybe I can increase that next time. But if you just stay quiet and you avoid the situations, well, your brain thinks that's the answer. I must avoid everything else. So stop avoiding everything. The second tip was to make an exposure ladder. Write situations from the easiest to the hardest. So here's 8 situations from the easiest to the hardest in social settings. Smiling at someone. Say morning to a neighbour. Ask a shop worker where something is. Make a short phone call. Join a small conversation. Eating in public. Speak in a meeting. Go to a social event aloud. So you might have your own, this is just an example, so you might have your own kind of list of this. But basically, this is a ladder of exposure. A ladder, of course, is something that we climb up to get to our high point. So the first rung or the first step of the ladder is smiling at someone. Then you go up the ladder. You say good morning to someone. And you go up another step on the ladder. You ask someone for some information. Next step, you make a phone call. Have a conversation. And the top step is going to a social event alone. But you can just take one step at a time. That's okay. So here's an example exposure ladder when it comes to English. The first rung, the first step of that ladder we're going to jump on is to read English out loud alone. Then we're going to climb up the ladder, record yourself speaking. Thirdly, send a short voice message to a friend or a colleague. Ask a simple question in English. Have a brief 1-minute conversation. We keep going up the ladder. Join a group conversation in English or a group speaking class. 7, speak up in a meeting, in a class, in a social event. Exposure therapy. But the most important thing is that you just keep going up that ladder. You know, we're not just putting the ladder away in the garage and we don't want to climb it. You know, write down your own steps that you can do and just gradually climb up that ladder. So that was the second point, make an exposure ladder. Thirdly, and I particularly like this one, challenge your anxious thoughts. Argue with them. Defend yourself against your own anxiety. Social anxiety often creates thoughts like this, okay? Everyone will judge me. I'll embarrass myself. They'll think I'm awkward. They'll think I'm weird. Have you, I don't know, perhaps you can add to that. You've got those anxieties just throwing those thoughts around in your mind. Well, battle them. Defend yourself against those anxious thoughts. For example, ask yourself, if you're coming up with that thought, everyone's going to judge me. What evidence do I have to back that up? I'll embarrass myself. Well, if a friend said that to you, what would you say to the friend? They'll think I'm awkward. Is there a more realistic thought? They'll think I'm nice. They'll think I'm fun. They'll think I'm cool. They'll think I'm just a normal human being. How does this apply to English? Oh, my English is bad. They'll think I'm stupid. My accent sounds wrong. I don't say everything perfectly. Instead of that, battle those anxious thoughts. I might make mistakes, but people usually care about understanding, not perfection. I've got an accent. I might say something stupid, but I've put a lot of effort into my English. I've got to this point, and all that matters is I can connect with someone. I can have a conversation and they understand me. Challenge those anxious thoughts like they're in front of you, like you're defending yourself against them. The fourth point, drop safety behaviors. Safety behaviors are those things that are like putting on a life vest in situations. They feel helpful, but they just fuel anxiety. I'll give you some example. Safety behaviors in social settings. Here are 4. You avoid eye contact. Social anxiety often makes us do that. Avoid eye contact. You rehearse every sentence, either before you go or before you speak, actually at the situation. You speak very quietly, because speaking quietly means that people might not hear you, and then you don't have to worry about it anymore. And the fourth one is over apologizing. Have you done that? Oh, sorry about my English. Oh, sorry. I don't know if you understand me. Sorry. Drop that. Drop those safety behaviors. They might seem helpful, but all they're doing is fueling anxiety. How this applies to English. Oh, I'd have to translate everything in my head before I speak. I've got to make sure I understood every word. Only using safe, basic sentences that I know. That's all I'm going to use. I'm not going to speak unless I'm 100% sure it's going to be right. I'm going to switch back to my native language very quickly. They're safety behaviors. Or instead, try this. Speaking without perfect preparation. Using slightly more challenging words that you enjoyed studying but you refuse to use in public. And letting small mistakes happen. Those safety barriers prevents us improving. It reminded me of, I went bowling recently. Now, I haven't been bowling for years and years and years, but a friend said to me, do you want to go bowling? So I did. And we had, starting off, we had the barriers up and the balls were bouncing around, blah, blah, blah. But it didn't help at all. So when you go bowling, you put the barriers down and you've got 2 gullies either side. And when we first started, a lot of the balls went in those gullies. But having the safety barriers down slowly taught us how to get the ball down the alley and to hit the pins at the end. That was our goal. But that would never have happened. We would not have learned that if the safety barriers were up. It's the same with English. We've all got our own safety barriers. Lose them. Drop them. Another point, shift attention outward. Social anxiety makes you focus on yourself. Do I look nervous? Am I saying this wrong? Instead, focus outward. What's the other person saying? What can I ask next? How does this apply to English? Well, instead of, is my grammar correct? Am I pronouncing this perfectly? Just focus on the other person. Can I understand them? Do I understand what they're trying to say to me? What questions can I ask to keep the conversation going? Communication, perfection doesn't exist, but it's okay. And if you don't know what to keep going, just ask what, where, why, when, and how. The 5 questions that can keep any conversation going, but shift the attention outward, not all on ourselves. Number 6, practice simple conversation skills. Now, you don't need to be amazing at conversation to ace social situations. Use simple tools. Ask and share. Ask a question, then share a little bit of information about ourselves. Follow-up questions. Just simple exits out of the conversation if we need to. And use English confidently. Simple conversation skills. What do you do? What do you do for work? Oh, really? That's interesting. How was your weekend? And if we need to exit the conversation, oh, it's been really nice talking to you. These are just little phrases that we can practice to help us with that social anxiety. You don't need complex grammar. You don't need complex vocabulary to connect with people. You just got to be real. Just got to be yourself. And just practice those simple conversation skills. If someone is talking to us, just look them in the eyes and listen. Oh, really? That's interesting. Ask another question. And if if the conversation's ending, just say, oh, it's really nice talking to you. It's something that we can practice at home. Just those simple conversation skills. We don't have to, good communication isn't dependent on complex, perfect grammar and vocabulary and enunciation. That's what makes you weird. Just be yourself. Number 7. And if you're watching online, it really annoys me, but for some reason the 7 isn't in that blue color. I don't know why that's like that. I apologize. I'll be better. Accept physical symptoms. So we've already established that anxiety and social anxiety does come with physical symptoms. Now, trying to fight anxiety often makes it worse. Instead, this is uncomfortable, but it's not dangerous. When we have those feelings of anxiety, this is uncomfortable, but it's not dangerous. Now, when speaking English, you might freeze, you might forget words, you might feel a bit shaky or nervous. That's normal. You've got to say to yourself, why is it that you're feeling a bit nervous? I'm nervous because I'm using another language, and that's okay. You are communicating in a completely new language. Accept that you're going to be nervous. Accept those physical symptoms. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It doesn't mean that you're not confident enough. My goodness, you're speaking in another language. It's okay to be a bit nervous, but tell yourself that. It makes sense. Don't worry about it so much. This is an interesting point. Do post social reviews differently. Do you ever come away from social situations and think, I was awkward, I messed everything up, they probably think I'm weird, they don't want to be my friend, I'm never going to get this job. It's kind of that negative social review. Try this instead. What did I do okay? What went okay? What did I accomplish? What did I speak about despite feeling nervous, despite anxiety? Instead of thinking, my English was terrible, I made this mistake, I pronounced this word incorrectly, did they understand me? Yeah, brilliant. Did I try? Yeah, fantastic, well done. What improved compared to last time? Do positive post-social reviews. Now, I'm not saying just to ignore the areas that you can improve in. I do encourage that. Find the areas that you need to improve in. But this isn't that, Don't be overly critical of yourself. Positive post-social reviews. Now, I think this next one is essential. Build tolerance for awkwardness. If we tolerate something, we bear it. Awkward moments happen to everyone. It's not just us. It's not just you. They're normal, but they're really not disasters. They're not the end of the world. It's going to happen. You will pause. You will sometimes freeze. You will sometimes use the wrong words, pronounce it incorrectly. You will sometimes need to repeat yourself. Even native speakers say, sorry, what? I lost my train of thoughts. What was I saying? Oh, I don't know. It happens. It's not failure. It's part of learning. It's going to be awkward sometimes. Build tolerance for it. And again, comes back to that first point. If you avoid it, you don't build tolerance. But build tolerance for it. You're going to feel awkward. You're going to mess up. Some situations are, let's be honest, we're humans, going to be a little bit uncomfortable from time to time. It's all right. Now, this next one is particularly if we, I keep saying you, but we're all included in this. If we do feel ourselves building up a little bit, that anxiety is building within us in a social situation, breathe. It doesn't mean we have to initially run away from the situation. It doesn't mean we've got to leave. or we've messed up, sometimes just take a personal moment and breathe. And I think the direction is, inhale for 4 seconds, exhale for 6 seconds. Sometimes we've all just got to take a moment to have a breath. Take a moment just to inhale, exhale for 6 seconds. You can do this before speaking English, before a meeting, before a class, especially in stressful moments. And it helps your brain just to access vocabulary, think more clearly, speak more smoothly, and just calm down a little bit. I think this is true, particularly even if you're just feeling general anxiety. Take a breath, take a moment. And lastly, reduce background stress. Anxiety is worse when your system is overloaded. Speaking a second language is mentally demanding. So, don't practice only when you're exhausted. Take breaks. Use English in low pressure situations whenever you can. Be patient with your energy levels and don't be too hard on yourself. Just reduce that background stress. So there's quite a few points there, but I don't know. Maybe it's something that you've battled with. Maybe it's something you haven't. Maybe it's something that really prevents you in certain situations from progressing, from reaching your potential. But anxiety, a certain level of anxiety, is normal. But I think it's so important that we somehow learn to control it, particularly when it comes to social situations. So I do really hope there was just some thoughts in that episode that helped you just to kind of put it in perspective. Yeah, interesting one, isn't it? It is something that we all have to battle with, I think, to different degrees. But it doesn't have to control us. And I think the key point is don't avoid situations because they make us anxious, because that only builds fear. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. I do appreciate it. If you can give this video a like and a subscribe and introduce yourself in the comments, share any thoughts that you've got, I'd love to hear them. Well, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next Sunday. Have a good one, guys.